Hi guys, today I have a really interesting and a very important topic for you in manifestation, which is mental discipline. I want to talk about the importance of mental discipline when it comes to conscious manifestation, the problems that people are facing with it, and how to achieve mental discipline so that you can manifest anything that you set your mind to, which is why we're all here on this channel. If you need a more personalized help with your manifestations, you can book a one-on-one coaching session with me from the link in the description box below. You can also join my Master Manifestor Mastermind group. In that case, please send me an email from my booking page and we will find a group for you that is comfortable for your own time zone. And check out the links for my courses and let's talk about mental discipline. This topic actually has been coming up since I started Master Manifestors Mastermind groups, which is, for those of you who are new here, it's a monthly subscription, which with weekly sessions, the point of this was to give you a possibility to have sessions with me consistently. The consistency of the work is something that a lot of people are struggling with. And that is very, very connected to the mental discipline. If you don't have your mental discipline, you are not going to be consistent in the work. And doing the work is crucial in order to manifest a different reality because of how the mind works. When we are consciously manifesting, the manifestation process is 100% mental. There's nothing to do in the physical reality. And what we are doing essentially is we are replacing our old beliefs with new beliefs. We're replacing our stories with new stories. That is the point of the techniques. The point is to change whatever you are holding in your mind, your mental programming. And since it's a programming, you program your mind through repetition. That is not the only way to program the mind, but it's the most attainable. It's probably one of the easiest ways. And that is what we talk about a lot, repetition. If you don't have discipline, you're not going to repeat. The problem with not having mental discipline, and the problem that many people are dealing with, is the old story that comes up. Your old beliefs that come up in your mind that your 3D reminds you of, because your 3D is a product of your subconscious programming. So it's going to be this continuous loop if you don't change it. So what happens is the old programming comes up, the old stories, your limiting beliefs, everything that is opposing your desired outcome. And an undisciplined mind is going to give into that, take that as true, take that as facts, and leave it at that. This is why your manifestation process takes a long time. This is why you get hot and cold, back and forth. This is all a result of an undisciplined mind. And when I talk about doing the work, that's what it means. Neville Goddard actually also talks a lot about mental discipline. Without mental discipline, you're not going to achieve anything. You're not going to go from point A to point B, simply because your mind does what it's habituated to do. That's how the mind works, and this is why we need repetition. So if your mind is habituated to the story that you're currently experiencing, that is where it's going to go effortlessly, even though it feels bad, even though it's really negative. That's not the concern of your mind. It simply goes to the story that it is habituated to think. When you attain mental discipline, what you do is when the old story comes up, you don't give into it. Even if you have emotional reaction, which is also a programming, by the way, your emotions are a manifestation of your stories, good and bad. So when you The same happens with your news story, with your affirmations. When they start becoming your new programming, that also creates the equivalent emotions, the equivalent feeling state. That's a side note. So when the old story comes up and you don't give into that, every time you don't do that, you disrupt the old pattern. And this is where your techniques come in. This is why you do the techniques. In order to disrupt the old pattern, create a new pattern, all mental, we're talking about the mind, so that your physical reality can start reflecting that. When you don't have the discipline, you do a lot of back and forth. I work with, and I have worked with many people who are doing the work, who are doing their techniques, the affirmations, etc., whatever we have agreed on, a routine that they want to do. But discipline is required for the moments when you don't do the work on purpose. So when the negative story comes up, what do you do then? If you give in to it, and you start really feeding into that story that, yeah, you don't have your desire, you can't have your desire because of whatever, etc., and you start spiraling, that's how you do the back and forth. Your mind was going in one direction while you were affirming, now it's going in the opposite direction. So this is why manifestations take forever. And they don't have to. I have found through actually coaching, and specifically the last couple of months of doing the group coachings, specifically where I talk with the same people on a weekly basis. What I have found that people struggle with the most is, when it comes to mental discipline, is this attachment, this clinginess to the old story, to the beliefs that you hold of yourself, of the situation, of the person, etc. And of course, humanly, it's understandable that this has been your experience, so now you think that of the person. This has been your experience on repeat, and now you think that of yourself, etc. Something that really helps with this is to question your own beliefs. Negative beliefs, of course, you don't question your positive beliefs. You want to keep them and you want to have them on repeat. But when a negative belief comes up and you think something about yourself that isn't really helpful for your experience or for your manifestation, for the way you experience life, question it. Like, what if that's not true? Whatever you believe about yourself, now, this is a lot of self-concept, of course. It's not only about self-worth and how you love yourself, etc. It's even when it comes to money. Maybe you have had a really bad experience, an experience of lack of money throughout your life. You've maybe never had more than enough or even enough, etc. This is just an example. And now you think of yourself as someone who doesn't have money, who is not good with money, who can't make money, or you live in an area where the people just don't make that amount, or you have a job or a profession where it's just accepted that you don't make that much money in that job, or whatever it is. Question that. Why do I believe this? What if it's not true? What if it's not true? If it creates too much resistance to go to the opposite of, no, I'm a millionaire, I'm a multimillionaire, I have so much money, etc. If that creates too much resistance, go slow. It's okay. Try to just question the belief. Like, why do I believe this about myself? The real technical answer is that someone put it in your head while you were a child, probably, and then you started believing it, you started experiencing it, the experience reinforced the belief, and now it creates this cycle. If it helps, think of it like that also, but question your negative beliefs. What if it's not true? Let's say you're manifesting an SP, your SP is your specific person is behaving in a way that is really, really undesirable. and you create assumptions about that. They don't like me. They don't want to be with me. Question those beliefs even when you have the experience. What if it's not true? What if it's not true? Even if they told you they don't love you, they don't want to be with you, question that. What if that's not true? What if the person actually wants to be with me? What if they want the same thing that I want? What if I am actually loved? That's a possibility. We tend to give meaning to our experiences based on our current beliefs, based on our self-concept most of the time. This is why it's so important to work with self-concept and to change your assumptions. That's how you create lasting changes. So whatever happens in your reality, you are going to interpret it based on your beliefs, assumptions, your programming. Sometimes it happens that it was something else, like that was something else, but your mind is going to laser focus your attention on some belief that is activated based on that assumption, and now you're like, yeah, they don't love me, I can't make money, this is never going to get better, etc. And that's how the mind works. It gets triggered, now you spiral, and if you let your mind do that, you keep going. This is why when it happens, if you question the belief, okay, what if I'm interpreting it in a way that's just not benefiting me, or that's not true? Question your negative beliefs. Make it a habit every time you think anything negative that you don't want to experience. Tell yourself, like, why do I believe this? Why is this in my head? What if it's not true? Because when you do that, the act of questioning it removes the emotional attachment to the story, which is simply not that. When I say attachment, clinginess to the old story, it's not meant to say that you want that. Like, I don't want to let this go, I want this. You don't want that. But the clinginess comes as, this is true, this is facts, this is not going to change. That's an assumption. Assumptions manifest. We're working with the law of assumption. So a really, really good exercise to really get rid of this attachment to your current self is, what if I'm not this person that I think that I am, who is unloved, undisciplined, for example, I don't know, undesirable, not good with money, unhealthy, etc., etc. What if that's not me? It's something that I've come to believe, and now I experience it, and now I create experiences that reinforce my beliefs because I give in to them, I have a huge emotional reaction, and I just create this infinite loop of the same unwanted things. So mental discipline starts with disrupting the old story, with not giving into it, not taking it as facts, because all your assumptions are subjective. None of your assumptions are universally true. You experience your complete subjective programming, and that, of course, is going to be completely real to you. That's going to be your truth. That's going to be 100% real. But all your assumptions are 100% subjective. The subconscious mind, which is the part of your mind that gets programmed, is also called the subjective mind. It doesn't know anything other than what you keep telling it. So what if continuously repeating the old story, you go, okay, I've repeated that enough. Like, I don't want to experience this anymore. Like, enough of this. I don't get anything out of this other than just manifesting more of it. What if I repeated something else instead? Told it to myself like it's true. I am loved. I'm respected. I do get myself into beautiful situations all the time. I do have the love of my life that I want. I do have the money that I want. When you repeat these affirmations or your affirmations, whatever you're manifesting. Remind yourself that your subconscious mind, which is the part of your mind that is going to act on these affirmations, doesn't know what's true, what's not. So instead of repeating your experiences, which are also not universally true, your experiences are simply manifestations of your very subjective assumptions. So when you take the experience and say, ooh, I have had this experience, this is my reality, this is my truth, it's never going to change, it sucks. You're simply just repeating the subjective experience, the subjective assumptions. What if that's not true? What if you're actually the most wonderful human being who is actually lucky, but because of your programming, you're not experiencing that? What if you are actually lucky, which is also an assumption, by the way, but you can create all the assumptions that you desire to manifest? So, therefore, when it comes to mental discipline, it's very much about not giving into the old story, not giving into what you know about yourself. This is something people have a difficulty with, but I know this. This has been my experience. This is all that I've known my whole life. Wonderful. What if that's not true? Even if the doctor told you you can't be healed, you have a health issue that can't be healed. What if that's not true? What if the doctor doesn't know better? What if there is a possibility? There always is. But this is what I mean. To actively, take it as action taking, actually. All the action you need in order to manifest is happening in your mind. Every time you have a belief or a thought based on an experience, for example, based on the 3D, that isn't benefiting you, that's not what you want. What if that's not true? This is far more efficient than giving into it, spiraling for a couple of weeks, and then remember, oh, I was manifesting, let me do my affirmations. The back and forth is prolonging your manifestation. And this is not to say that you have to have perfect mental discipline from morning to evening, 24/7, every second of the day. You have your bad moments, that's fine, that's normal. I don't think any manifestation process is completely perfect, to be honest. You can still manifest. But the more you train your mind to not believe every bullshit that it tells you, the better you become at choosing your reality, you're choosing your thoughts. And we often talk about how much power we have over the 3D. You have the same power over your own mind. Your mind is yours to command. The same way that the 3D is yours to mold into whatever you like through your mental activity. But you have the same power over your mind. Don't tell yourself this story that, oh, my old beliefs, sabotaging my manifestation, I can't control my mind, the old stuff comes up and ruins my manifestation. None of that is true. You have full control over your mind. You just need to start doing it. This is something I always say, just start doing it. That's the difficult part. Then it becomes a habit, then it becomes habitual, then it becomes easy. But you have to start. And I will give you this. In the beginning, it may feel challenging. Your mind does the back and forth. It's normal. It does that. It goes where it's habituated to go most of the time. But if you keep letting it go to the same old, that's going to become easier and easier for your mind to jump to the bad conclusion, jump to the old stuff. The more you discipline your mind, you control your mind, you guide it to your desired outcome, to your affirmations, your new thoughts, your new truths, your new stories. The more you start creating that habit, that becomes easy at some point if you are consistent with it. That becomes easy, that becomes your new habit. So this is super important. As I said somewhere in the video, you can't go from point A to point B without mental discipline, because if you don't discipline your mind is just going to go to the old story that it already knows, which you don't want more of. And you have all the power over your mind that you need to manifest anything you desire. If you need a more personalized help with your manifestations, you can book a one-on-one coaching with me from the link in the description box below, or you can join my Master Manifestors Mastermind group, which is very helpful for consistency, for problem solving, for specifically the consistency, to be honest, and to have access to me as a coach on a weekly basis where I help you with whatever you've been dealing with. And in that case, please send me an email from my booking page so that we can find a group that is comfortable for your time zone. Check out the other links for my courses in the description box below. Have a beautiful day and see you in the next video.